these race directors, I would like to set them an exam. I would like to be able to look at the rule book and see all of the various different rules and regulations and see how they're able to, because they should have it on the tip of their tongue. They're not. They're going to that stupid yellow book, reading up all of the bits and pieces and say, oh yeah, this code this and code that, and article this and article that and subsection that. It's bollocks. David, it's bollocks. These guys don't know what they're doing.
Hello and welcome to Formula for Success. I'm David Coulthard, and with me today is the man who's made the soapbox his second home. It's the lolly-sucking, fierce-talking, rule-breaking Eddie Jordan.
Wow! Despite all those downers, they tried to kill us off last week with some of the things we said, DC, but we're back, and we're strong, and we're fighting fit.
Jeez, God, this is going to be a hell of an episode. I can feel the fierceness in your voice.
I have a good vibe about this one.
All right, okay, well, EJ, this is all about the last three, and we're going to have to get straight into Las Vegas. It's the Grand Prix. It's coming up this weekend. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the fingers are crossed that the track runs smoother than it did last year. If you remember, the Ferrari, rather unfairly, I think, had to take a big penalty with that chassis getting damaged. Things like that, actually. If we just start there, it doesn't make sense, does it? If there's a circuit issue and somebody in this tightly run world of Formula 1 today where you've only got a spare chassis in the box and if you change you get penalties, that's a bit madness. Surely the FIA have got to sort of sit down and look at these things a bit more sensibly.
But listen, David, let's be realistic. The situation is the track was culpable, but the track didn't realise that, you have to weld these manhole covers solid to the ground because the downforce created from the underneath of these cars is so huge that it could suck the Titanic up out of the ocean, I almost think. So anyway, leaving that kind of thing aside, Carlos Sainz was dealt a terribly, terribly unfair situation. But then we've seen that. That is the race director's problem. He should have some semblance of control, knowledge, or he should have in his locker some DNA which shows that he's been a racer all his life. And if he was a racer, he'd understand that. But he's now been dismissed eventually. And so we've got a new one coming up we can talk about in the future. But David, I 100% agree with you wholeheartedly. Carlos Sainz was so unfairly treated, just like other people have been in recent times.
Well, that takes us directly to the race director, actually. So we've seen the race director a very nice press release from the FIA saying that he'll be, they were thanking him for his work and he's off to pastures new. And then, of course, the undertone and rumour, and as has been reported on Sky Sports and others, that actually he was fired. Yeah. So explain that to me. Why do we lie to our audience? If the guy's been fired, he's been fired. Logan Sargent, fired. Nobody tries to pretend that he's, thank you, Logan, you've been a brilliant servant and we want to thank you by taking you out of the car. Yeah. So, you've run a big organisation. Why do we get dealt information like that? And it's a very unusual one.
We're in a life of spin. Whether it comes from politics, which is, of course, where it comes from, and we've seen plenty of that in America, we've seen it in the UK. Spin is something that, PR people and marketing people expect to be able to put a nice shine to it. But they're missing the real truth of the matter. 3 races to go in a championship decider like it is now, and you're telling me that he decided to go and thank him for his time. Of course the guy was fired. He was fired for a number of... I'm not saying it's us or anything to do with it, but I would say the red flag was a contributory factor. I think there were other issues. Look, I'm really a staunch believer. We'll come down to Charlie Whiting at some stage, who was for years the greatest and the best race director that we've ever had. And I think maybe later on in the show we could pay some kind of homage to him because he was so good. And the point is that these race directors, I would like to set them an exam. I would like to be able to look at the rule book and see all of the various different rules and regulations and see how they're able to, because they should have it on the tip of their tongue. They're not. They're going to that stupid yellow book, reading up all of the bits and pieces and say, oh yeah, this code this and code that, and article this and article that and subsection that. It's bollocks. David, it's bollocks. These guys don't know what they're doing.
Well, clearly the race director has somehow clashed with the FIA president. And it's fair to say there's been quite a lot of sort of, people's heads on the chopping block under his presidency. I'm not involved with the GPD anymore, so it's impossible for me to know, whether he's making changes for the good or whether it's just because he's, clashing with people. Have you got any intel on that, EJ? Because you mentioned Charlie Whiting, and Charlie was a racer through and through. He'd started as a mechanic, he'd come up through the Bernie Ecclestone Brabham School, and it was the classic sort of expression of, poacher turned gamekeeper. Is that what we need? There's 3 questions in that. MBS, the president, do we need that poacher turned gamekeeper? And, what sort of your experience of working with the FIA, do they get too involved, do you think, or should they be more involved?
Look, first of all, let's... Mohammed, which he's now known as mine. When I was growing up 30-odd years ago, and I went to his, he had the Hard Rock Cafe in Dubai. He was Mo to me then, but he's now Mohammed. So Mohammed is the president, and next year is another election, and he's due to go up for that, and I'm sure he will do. Whether we'll be opposition or not, I have absolutely no idea. But yes, there is a clash. There is a conflict of interest. He's a little bit at loggerheads with the drivers. He causes a little bit of aggravation, or aggravation is created, but then he seems to be able to download it and become pals with them again. So that in itself is probably a reasonable situation, because what we need is a strong but relatively silent FIA. So somebody who's able to make sure that the rules, regulations, because they are 2 totally different things. Running a race team, running the Formula One is completely different to the FIA's role. And so therefore, there's obviously a clash, as you rightly say. Niels Wittich, whatever his name is, the guy who is... You see, I'm always concerned. David, you've come back to it. Charlie Whiting. I'm very concerned that the same with Michael Massey. Did he know the rule book inside out? I dare say he didn't, because he made decisions in Abu Dhabi that he probably needed to revert back to a book. These guys need, just like Charlie White, he had it on the tip of his tongue. He never needed to see a book. I guarantee if you gave 20 of the most difficult questions to Max Verstappen tomorrow about rules and regulations, I guarantee you he'd have every single one of them correct, and he wouldn't have to look at anything. Now, that is what we need. We need somebody of that kind of ilk. There was a great, with Charlie, he had a great cohort in Herbie Blash alongside him. Again, another Brabham man. But, Herbie looks after Toyota and various other things, and I still think he's in Formula One. But Herbie would have been brilliant. But, they decided to go out to other people. And now we've had a flux of different race directors, and at the moment, no one seems to be happy with any of them. And I don't know if this new guy, I wish him very, very success, but coming from Formula 2 and Formula 3, it's a big ask to move with 3 races to go in a very, very heated championship. He's going to have to be on his toes to get his rules and regulations right.
Yeah, it does seem to me a thankless task, being anything to do with the FIA and anything to do with race direction and stewarding. It reminds me of a Billy Connolly sketch when he was talking about politicians, and he comes away with a line where he goes, the very thought of being a politician is the reason why you'd never be one. It's like I would never want to be a race steward or a race director. My God, it just seems thankless. But let us focus on this incredible championship that's been served up to us, because ahead of Vegas, Max could wrap it up. And what he, currently the point situation is that he's got 62 points ahead of Lando Norris, and there's 86 points still up for grabs. Now, there's still a title fight, because if Max doesn't finish in Vegas and Lando is to win and get fastest lap, there's 26 points taken out of that, and the battle continues. Now, I know we don't have crystal balls, but it would be great if it did go to Abu Dhabi, but in many ways, it could all be wrapped up.
We have a sprint race, which is also extra points here, another potential 8 points. So I just feel that Lando has the speed. as we've said so many times, I think Lando has the speed. And maybe with all the aggravation I've given him and the prompting he may actually get on, lead the race from pole and give us the chance to bring this to to close it out and in Abu Dhabi, which everyone would like to see. However, I still have always said from the very beginning that I think there are too many other drivers at play who are indirectly working on behalf of Max, only because they're looking to get as many points as they can. So Lando has a big ask. So he needs to get pole, and he needs to get out there, and he needs to win, and then pray that things happen and fall into his plan. But that's the way it is. I have a feeling that Lando will have a big race. I'm not sure why I think that. I just do.
Yeah, well, Ferrari were strong there last year as well, and it was a great race right to the end. An interesting stat for you, EJ, because I know you like your numbers. Over the last 5 races, Verstappen, Leclerc and Norris have each scored exactly 90 points. That's pretty impressive, isn't it? So over those 5 races, they've come out with the same tally.
We still can't get away from the fact the quickest car on the track at the moment, in my opinion, is the McLaren, closely followed by that Ferrari. And I don't know what Red Bull have been doing in this time off period. I'm sure they will have sorted something out, because clearly the car in a dry situation is not at the races.
Yeah, and I guess all eyes are going to be on Checo Perez, because McLaren, both their drivers are serving up performance. Ferrari, you've got to say that Carlos is having a sort of brilliant end to his first stint at Ferrari, because I'm not convinced he won't be back there at some point in the future. Yeah. And, it's really Red Bull where it's only Max doing the lion's share of the scoring. So, again, a lot of talk and rumour about Checo. Is, in your opinion, just the financial benefits that he brings to the team? Because he's not bringing the points right now. He's a great guy. We all want him to do well, but you've got to show the stopwatch that you've still got the speed.
I'm a financial guy. I like figures. I like to see what's coming in and what's going out, what can stay in my bin and what I need to spend. And in reality, yes, Checo's power. There was Carlos Slim, if you remember, helped to support him to get to Formula One at an early stage. And then it went on and different sponsors all the way through. But then you have to do a little bit of subtraction. And subtraction is, with a higher quality finishing rate and a higher quality results rate, like what we used to have in years gone by, you would expect that Red Bull would be fighting for the Constructors' Championship. And I think the difference between the Constructors' Championship is probably about 100 million for winning it, and second maybe about 60 or 70. So there's a big shortfall there. So by the time you add up and subtract, you have to ask yourself, Jesus, has this been worth it? And I don't know. Only Red Bull and Christian Horner and you guys, because you're close to him, you should begin there counting up all the pennies and anything that's left over. Will you please put some of it my way, DC?
Listen, I think, as you've always told us, you've got more money than time. I'm not sure I'm in that same situation, but anyway, it's a curious one, and I guess a lot rides on these final 3 races. So I think there'll still be more news to come from there. But some news that did come regarding, and this is something right up your Strasza, Sauber have gone with a young driver. Yeah. They've gone with Gabriel Bortoleto, and what great news that is for him. Not so good for Valtteri Bottas, who's sort of reinvented himself there as a funny man with all these little memes and naked calendars and all that sort of stuff. But somehow, I guess it makes sense for Sauber to, in the hands of Nico Hülkenberg, they've got a known fast driver, and with Bortoleto, they've got someone who's a coming man of F2.
So, David, I think what I'm pleased about, and I'm not saying people are listening to us, but maybe they are, and hopefully they are, but we've been very strong about Formula One not becoming stagnant, not becoming old. And, we were concerned when we said a 40-odd-year-old Lewis Hamilton, a 40-odd-year-old Alonso, all in Formula One. But they are multiple world champions and have every right to be there. So, but at the same time, there needs to be an opportunity for a flow of the latest talent coming through. Look, you've got your son. You must be happy to be able to see this because you realise, and the same as, our great friend Mick Doohan, his son has finally got in, Jack. So he's one of the 4 that are going to be on the grid next year. And I'm absolutely personally overjoyed, not particularly just for Jack, because we know him, but and his dad is an absolute trooper. But the fact is that they've been given this opportunity. And, I've been banging on about this with you for a very long time. And let's hope our words were heeded, because what we've got is 4 young, really top guys. And this guy, Bortoleto, is I'm inclined to pronounce his name like Barrichello. So, but anyway, so I don't get too confused. But anyway, he's managed incidentally, and we should say this, but Fernando Alonso is looking after him, just like Mark Webber's looking after Piastri. And it's great to see not just young drivers, but it's actually nice to see young drivers being represented by really high quality people.
Yeah, that seems to be the new trend, and that's going to be interesting for Fernando because, Bortoleto has won the F3 championship, he's leading F2. We regularly see Fernando standing below the podium during a Grand Prix weekend when he's out there getting those results. So there's a real vested interest there, isn't there, for Fernando? And as you say, Mark Webber doing a great job with Oscar Piastri. So yeah, maybe EJ, that could be one for you. But driver management, you did it in the past.
Shame about poor Adrian Newey. Look what he wound up with.
Actually, I have to tell you, as we record this, I'm in Galway in Ireland, and I was doing a running show car event. It was in the evening. It was a wee bit drizzly under the spotlights, but out of all of that wonderful Irish crowd, someone came up to me and said, "Thank Eddie Jordan for getting Adrian Newey to Aston Martin." And he opened his jacket and he had an Aston Martin jumper on. So there's one happy person outside of Aston Martin that I've met was calling you out and thinking your praises.
Oh, thank you for that, David. I need all the support I can get. There's a body of people who think I completely screwed up. But anyway, let's move on to the motor racing and Vegas, because I think that's super important. It is at the crux of a championship. 3 races to go. David, I'm a little bit concerned because the last 3 weeks were really quite boring. I mean, I know we've had some lovely podcasts and good dialogue. I think that the organisers, including the FIA, need to relook at the scheduling of the calendar because you go into a sleep mode, don't you, for saying, oh, there's no race this weekend. Why not? And that. So, but we're back into it fast and furious. 3 races on the trot. In 3 races' time, we will know who's the world champion. And I think that's all very exciting.
Yeah, it is indeed. I'm going to be at those 3 races. I missed 3 in a row, which was the first time in 30 years. On one hand, it was good to refresh and sort of look at Formula One from the outside. On the other hand, I did feel a bit disconnected. So I'm off to Vegas tomorrow. I'm using that brilliant service out of Dublin. I have mentioned and I have praised Dublin Airport before when I landed there and they had a power outage. They handled it beautifully. But I'm clearing American customs in Dublin. Yeah. And then when I arrive in Vegas, I'll just walk out like I'm on a domestic flight. So I'm looking forward to that, really looking forward to, I think, 3 great tracks for different reasons. Vegas gave us a cracking Grand Prix last year, despite the issues we talked about. Qatar, of course, that was the one where the drivers were being poured out of the cars. Oh, the poor babies had to work hard. And then Abu Dhabi, not a brilliant racetrack, but it has given us some good racing.
I think Abu Dhabi is a natural closer. It just has everything about it. It's got amazing fun. It's all confined to one area, the marina and the island. People who, what I enjoy quite a bit on the Thursday, we used to have a 4-ball, Carlos Sainz Sr., Jr., myself, and anyone else, either Alan Prost if he was there or anyone else. So there's a lot of golfers who go there. The golf courses are just absolutely amazing on your doorstep. You got the Ferrari world there. I think Abu Dhabi is the perfect venue to close out a Grand Prix season because it has everything on your doorstep. And they know how to entertain. They know how to make you feel welcome. And let's hope we're able to get a good race there. But traditionally, the races have been poor, but I think the ambience and the character of the track and the welcome we get is sensational.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a cracker. Interestingly, I heard that when we talk about Abu Dhabi, that Antonelli has been testing in Abu Dhabi in a couple-year-old Mercedes. He's also been testing Bahrain. I'm going to assume he's tested at various other tracks. He's understandably, and all credit to Mercedes, that whilst he's turning up at races and learning how the team operates during a Grand Prix, they're making sure he's going to be possibly the best prepared rookie on the grid. That's pretty impressive, but that's a fair old investment as well, to send an entire team and car, and okay, it can't be one of the current cars because of the cost cap and mileage restrictions, but he's not really going to be a rookie by the time he gets on the grid next year.
Well, you'd say it's an investment. David, just cast your mind, they're probably saving 50 million on the current salary with Lewis Hamilton, so they're not paying. I think if they were paying Antonelli a couple of mil, I mean, I think that'd be Christmas is all coming at the same time. So there's a big saving in terms of the cost relationships. Of course, it's not part of the cost cap because it's the drivers. But anyway, Antonelli, let's see. It's still, for me, was a surprise. I still believe they should have gone for Carlos Sainz. I still believe that Mercedes, if they were desperately keen to win the Constructors' Championship, they have George and they needed somebody other than Kimi, because with the greatest of respect, you cannot do it in your first year. And if he does, I will be the first to say, hallelujah, brother, you've done an amazing job, because it just doesn't come across to me just yet. And I know I may have to eat my words because the guy is going to be sensational. But overall, it's a big ask. It's a big ask for Mercedes to expect him to be able to do that.
Yeah. Well, we wish him all the best. And
sure.
As we were just discussing before, this is the first time, I think, since 2019, we've had so many rookies on the grid. So you've got your Christmas presents early, EJ.
It's something that is the natural thing to happen. We just need, Valtteri Bottas has had his chance. He was at Mercedes. He was with Lewis. He had a real good opportunity. Yes, he's done a great job, but it's time to move on. David, you and me, we're not on Top Gear anymore because I'm too old and I got the chop. So anyway.
I was never on Top Gear.
Oh no, sorry. No, I took your place, I think, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. Anyway. Oh my God. Well, I'm glad you thought I was with you in spirit.
You always are, David. We're united at the hip.
Indeed. Well, look, it's been great as always talking to you, getting your insights. Well, anchors, that wraps up our time for today. Don't worry though, we'll be back next week to recap the drama in Vegas. For all of you listening on Apple Podcasts, we have just launched an ad-free subscription so you can listen uninterrupted with just one tap. Go to our show page and hit subscribe. Super easy. If that's not enough, you want all the trimmings as well, there's bonus episodes where we answer all your questions, your chance to join one of our future podcast recordings, plus some ad-free listening and access to Eddie's secret FFS Club playlist. Just head to ffs.supportingcast.fm to sign up now. Remember, you can get in touch with us on social media at F1 for Success and send your questions in to ffs@whisper.tv. Oh, EJ, that's a hell of a mouthful. I've got to go off and lie down.
I'm very impressed. When I hear you starting off like that, I said, thank God it's DC in the frame here, not me. So anyway, DC, I take a bow. Well done to you. And you're looking very sprightly this morning because I know where you were last night. And I'd like, are we allowed to know how many pints of that magnificent nectar of Guinness that you had last night? How many did you have?
I had the optimum amount. It was absolutely fantastic. The Galway crowd were amazing. And of course, very friendly. Actually, one of our listeners who'd actually sent in a question to FFS, and I had incorrectly called him Owen, because of course it was just the way it was written, the Irish way. It's actually Ewan. So he came up and introduced himself to me, said, "My name's Ewan. You mispronounced my name as Owen." So I apologise to him for that. But anyway, lovely group of people, and Eddie. What can I say? It's this time or that time where you need to just send us off with a wee growl, I think.